Hi Deceptioners, my name is Marika and welcome to my true crime series Dark Deception. With everything that is going on right now, I want to do more than reposting on Instagram, although it is important to educate yourself. So I'm doing these videos to spread the knowledge, so you get to know more information, I get to know more information. The researching has helped me a lot, so we can all educate ourselves and learn more about the world and its rich history. So there have been a lot of influential Black people. Of course, there are influential people from different races and ethnicities as well, but today I want to focus on the Black community. And I will be talking about the Little Rock Nine. I have listed all my resources in the description, so if you want to do your own research and learn more or read more about this, then you can click the links below. Well, let's get started. The Little Rock Nine were a group of 9 Black students who enrolled at a formerly all-white Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, September 1957. Their attendance at the school was a test of Brown v. Board of Education, a landmark 1954 Supreme Court ruling that declared segregation in public schools unconstitutional. So on September 4th, 1957, on the first day of school, or of classes, at the Central High, Governor Orville Faubus called in the Arkansas National Guard to block the Black students' entry into the high school. Later that month, President Dwight D. Eisenhower sent in federal troops to escort the Little Rock Nine into the school. This drew national attention to the civil rights movement.
Eisenhower.
Cool, great. So in its Brown v. Board of Education of Topeka decision, issued May 17, 1954, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that segregation of America's public schools was unconstitutional. Until the court's decision, many states across the nation had mandatory segregation laws, or Jim Crow laws, requiring African American and white children to attend separate schools. Resistance to the ruling was so widespread that the court issued a second decision in 1955, known as Brown II, ordering school districts to integrate with all deliberate speed. In response to the Brown decisions and pressure from the local chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, the Little Rock, Arkansas School Board adopted a plan for gradual integration of its schools. So by 1957, Arkansas had already integrated several state universities and smaller school districts. The first institutions to integrate would be the high schools, beginning in September 1957. Among these was Little Rock Central High School, which opened in 1927 and was originally called Little Rock Senior High School. 2 pro-segregation groups formed to oppose the plan: the Capital Citizens Council and the Mothers League of Central High School. This is important because they will come up later. Despite the virulent opposition, 9 students registered to be the first African Americans to attend Central High School. Okay, and now the names. I will try my best. Minnijean Brown, Elizabeth Eckford, Ernest Green, Thelma Mothershed, Melba Patillo, Gloria Ray, Terrence Roberts, Jefferson Thomas, and Carlotta Walls had been recruited by Daisy Gaston Bates, president of the Arkansas NAACP and co-publisher of the Arkansas State Press, an influential African American newspaper. And here you can see the picture after the fact. Although you might think it could cause some trauma and bullying to the chosen students, Daisy Bates and others from the Arkansas NAACP carefully vetted the group of students and determined they all possessed the strength and determination to face the resistance they would encounter. I think it was really brave of them to be doing this for the future of schools with different races and ethnicities, and just in general for their own community and their future to have the same opportunities as white people and people from different races. It was just really brave. In the weeks prior to the start of the new school year, the students participated in intensive counseling process, guiding them on what to expect once classes began and how to respond to anticipated hostile situations. The group soon became famous as the Little Rock Nine. Ta-da! As mentioned above, Governor Orville Faubus, a segregationist, announced that he would call in Arkansas National Guard to prevent the African American students' entry to Central High, claiming this action was for the students' own protection. In a televised address, Faubus insisted that violence and bloodshed might break out if black students were allowed to enter the school. Well, I'm not sure about this. I don't know if he's doing this for the students' protection or if he just doesn't want the students there. The Mothers League, the pro-segregation group mentioned above, held a sunrise service at the school on September 3rd as a protest against integration. But that afternoon, federal judge Ronald Davies issued a ruling that desegregation would continue as planned the next day. The Little Rock Nine arrived for the first day of school. 8 arrived together, driven by Bates. Elizabeth Eckford's family, however, did not have a telephone, and Bates could not reach her to let her know of their carpool plans. Therefore, Eckford arrived alone. When they came, they were prevented from entering the doors of Central High. One of the most enduring images from this day is a photograph of Eckford, alone with a notebook in her hands, her eyes shielded by sunglasses, stoically approaching the school as a crowd of hostile and screaming white students and all adults surround her. Included was a girl caught mid-year, her teeth bared and her face hardened with anger. This was Hazel Bryan, who was 15 when the photos was taken, but her actions on that day and hatred on her face turned her into an infamous symbol of the bigotry of Jim Crow and the intolerance faced by the students who tried to go to school that day. And this is the picture you can see. The black students had trained for this moment, but nothing could prepare Eckford for the screaming, taunting crowd that surrounded the school. I mean, it must have felt so horrible. They called out for her to be lynched and yelled slogans like 2468, we don't want to integrate. In the midst of the horde, reporters and photojournalists recorded the chaos. Women in the crowd, quote, shrieked in spasms as tears flowed down their cheeks, wrote one reporter. Screams of obscenities and slurs echoed through Eckford's ears. A group of girls, including Bryan, started to shriek and wail as Eckford passed and headed toward the school. As she clutched a folder, trying to move forward, Bryan screamed at her and told her to go back to Africa. Elizabeth Eckford recounted her efforts that morning. I walked up to the guard who had let the white students in. When I tried to squeeze past him, he raised his bayonet, and then the other guards closed in, and they raised their bayonets. They glared at me with a mean look, and I was very frightened, and didn't know what to do. I turned around, and the crowd came toward me. I tried to see a friendly face somewhere in the crowd, someone who maybe would help. I looked into the face of an old woman, and it seemed a kind face, but when I looked at her again, she spat on me. Eckford and the rest of the 9 never made it into school that day. Acting on the orders of Governor Orville Faubus, Arkansas National Guardsmen stopped her at the door and she was chased away from the school by the mob. The image was printed and broadcast widely in the United States and abroad, bringing the Little Rock controversy to national and international attention. The photograph, taken by the journalist Will Counts, ran on the front page of the Arkansas Democrat. It and a similar wire photo taken by another photographer quickly spread throughout the country. When Bryan received disapproving mail, her parents pulled her from the school. I mean, good for them, I guess. In the following weeks, federal judge Ronald Davies began legal proceedings against Governor Faubus, and President Dwight D. Eisenhower attempted to persuade Faubus to remove the National Guard and let the Little Rock Nine enter the school. Eisenhower faced a complicated predicament. He believed in adhering to the Constitution, but he wasn't outwardly passionate about civil rights and didn't speak in support of the Brown ruling. Quote, he wasn't that enthusiastic about the Supreme Court's decision and equivocated in public, said John A. Kirk, a history professor at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock and author of Beyond Little Rock, The Origins and Legacies of a Central High Crisis. He didn't put a strong backing to it. Eisenhower and Faubus agreed that the Arkansas National Guard would remain at the school to maintain order so the black students could attend. So on September 20th, when the governor returned to Arkansas, however, he removed the National Guard troops from Central and left security to the local police, the Little Rock Police Department. The police escorted the 9 African American students into the school on September 23rd through an angry mob of some 1,000 white protesters gathered outside. So they never stopped protesting against this. They had to use a side entrance because of this, and amidst ensuing rioting, the police removed the 9 students. The news incensed Eisenhower. He was a military man and didn't want his orders undermined, said Kirk. He felt Faubus had been insubordinate. The president was also concerned the riots compromised the credibility of the United States as a leader of democracy and a nation of laws during the Cold War era. Due to segregation, Eisenhower said, we are portrayed as violator of those standards of conduct which the peoples of the world united to proclaim in the Charter of the United Nations. There they affirmed faith in fundamental human rights and in the dignity and worth of the human person. And they did so without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. Our enemies are gloating over this incident and using it everywhere to misrepresent our nation, said Eisenhower in a televised address he gave at the White House the day after he enforced his executive order. Mob rule cannot be allowed to override the decisions of the courts. September 23rd, President Eisenhower issued Executive Order 10,073 or 10730 and sent in 1,200 members of the U.S. Army's 101st Airborne Division from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, placed them in charge of the 10,000 National Guardsmen on duty. Escorted by the troops, the Little Rock Nine attended their first full day of classes on September 25th. It turned out to be a point of contention, said Kirk. The NAACP felt the kids were being abandoned and wanted to make sure the soldiers had a presence in the school and looked out for the students and protected their safety. Numerous legal challenges to integration continued throughout the year, and Faubus repeatedly expressed his wish that the Little Rock Nine be removed from Central High. Although several of the black students had positive experiences on their first day of school, according to a September 25, 1957 report in the New York Times, they experienced routine harassment and even violence throughout the rest of the year. Melba Patillo, for instance, was kicked, beaten, and had acid thrown in her face. At one point, white students burned an African American effigy in a vacant lot across from the school. Gloria Ray was pushed down a flight of stairs, and the Little Rock Nine were barred from participating in extracurricular activities. Minnijean Brown was expelled from Central High School in February 1958 for retaliating against the attacks. So yeah, standing up for yourself and for people who are being bullied gets you expelled from school. Well, that's 1958 for you. Harassment went beyond the students. Gloria Ray's mother was fired from her job with the state of Arkansas when she refused to remove her daughter from the school. We all need a little deep breath, I think. Let's do it with me. Breathe in and breathe out. And maybe a shot of orange juice. The 101st Airborne and the National Guard remained at Central High School for the duration of the year. On May 25th, 1958, Ernest Green, the only senior among the Little Rock Nine, became the first African American graduate of Central High. An interesting fact, civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. attended graduation ceremonies at Central High School in May 1958 to see Ernest Green, the only senior amongst the Little Rock Nine, receive his diploma. This is just so great, amazing, people supporting each other, and especially when you're when people from your own race and ethnicity with your culture and traditions support you. Meanwhile, Eckford endured constant harassment and hatred inside the school she had helped integrate. She was spat upon, punched, hit with eggs and vegetables, and faced with a barrage of slurs and insults all year long. Though Eckford managed to finish the school year, the bigots of the Little Rock could not abide another year with integrated schools. Rather than repeat integration the next year, Governor Faubus closed all of the Little Rock's high schools for the entire year, so no school for any students, pending a public vote to prevent African American attendance. Little Rock citizens voted 19,470 to 7,561 against integration, and the schools remained closed. Other than Green, the rest of the Little Rock Nine completed their high school careers via correspondence or at other high schools across the country. Eckford joined the Army and later earned her general education equivalency diploma. Little Rock's high schools reopened in August 1959. So, like 3 or 4 years after? So, how was the aftermath? What happened after that? Several of the Little Rock Nine went on to distinguished careers. When Eckford, who moved to St. Louis soon after, visited Little Rock at age 21, she received a call from Brian, who apologized. Then they went their separate ways again. Eckford stayed silent about her ordeals for years and suffered from depression and trauma throughout her adult life. Brian spent years atoning on her own, learning about civil rights movements and becoming more racially conscious. In 1997, Will Counts, the photographer whose iconic shot was by then considered a defining document of a moment in the struggle for Black equality in the United States, arranged for the two to meet in person. 40 years after Brian screamed at Eckford, they reunited, reconciled, and became friends. Or did they? After a brief, warm friendship that saw them attend events and seminars together and even pose for a poster entitled Reconciliation that featured a modern-day photo of the pair outside Little Rock Central, their paths split again when they realized they could not truly reconcile. True reconciliation can occur only when we honestly acknowledge our painful but shared past, said Eckford. I understand her. I think if this would happen to me or my child, it would be very hard to truly be friends with someone who just hurt you so much, not like physically but even mentally. It's very hard to get over that trauma that trauma, especially when you were a teenager. Though both Hazel Bryan and now Macy and Elizabeth Eckford are still alive, it's unclear if they will find that reconciliation during their lifetimes. Their journey from enemies to friends to tense acquaintances is a reminder of the lasting effects of America's history, just as the photograph of two diametrically opposed girls show just how far the nation has come. And what about the other students? Green served as Assistant Secretary of the Federal Department of Labor under President Jimmy Carter. Brown worked as a Deputy Assistant Secretary for Workforce Diversity in the Department of the Interior under President Bill Clinton. Patillo worked as a reporter for NBC. The group has been widely recognized for their significant role in the civil rights movement. In 1999, President Clinton awarded each member of the group Congressional Gold Medal. The 9 also all received personal invitations to attend the inauguration of President Barack Obama in 2009. Jefferson Thomas became the first of the Little Rock 9 to die when he succumbed to pancreatic cancer at the age of 67 on September 5, 2010. After graduating from Central High, Thomas served in the Army in Vietnam, earned a business degree, and worked as an accountant for private companies and the Pentagon. Wow, truly amazing just to see, imagine going through all of this, the bullying, harassment, the beating, the media surrounding you all the time, and not giving up, but using all of your experience and the pain to become someone you want to be and to do something better for the world and have such important roles in the society. It takes so much courage and strength and resilience and hard work, and these stories make me so mad but so happy at the same time when we see these positive results and these people just flourishing and becoming just better and better people. These positive results coming out of something so horrific, and I just don't understand why people are racist, what they get from it. You bleed like I bleed, we are all humans. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean there are no colors or no races, because there are. But there is nothing that should cause us to be treated differently. No one should have disadvantages or less chances in life just because of their skin color. So thank you for watching this. Please like and subscribe if you like this, and I will try to make more informative videos like these. If you like, comment down below maybe. Once again, thank you, and please treat everyone the way you want to be treated, and have a nice day. Goodbye.